What is up, guys? Dalen from MAPerformance, and today we are going to talk about pros and cons of the Evolution 10. The Evolution 10 is a Mitsubishi sports sedan coming over from Japan, part of the Evolution family. As we kind of all know, and how we've built a lot of our strengths and opportunities here have been the Evolution family of cars from Mitsubishi. First introduced back in 1993 with the Evolution 1, all the way up until Evolution 10. Most of these cars came with the 4G63 iron block turbo 4-cylinder, outside of the Evo 10 that we're talking about today that has the aluminum 4B11T. The Evolution first came to the United States in 2003 with the Evolution 8. That was the 4G63 powered car, lightweight sports sedan, very iconic chassis that we've seen in anything from Fast and Furious. Again. Which, shout out Dustin Williams, now has that car. Very excited to see that thing come back together. To obviously one of the original time attack cars we saw in the US. It's just an iconic chassis that I think has kind of left its impression in the hearts and minds of anyone in this community. Today we're talking about the Evolution 10. First hit the market in 2008.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I bring you this 2008 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution GSR.
What we have here is a very sporty ride. It's a 2008 Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. We
got that car right away. That car is a bit of a departure from what we saw with the Evolutions past, being of a little bit larger sedan, a little bit more comfort oriented, and a little bit sporty oriented from what we saw in the Evo 8 and 9. They made some changes to make it a little bit more modern vehicle, something a little bit more comfortable to drive every day, something a little more friendly to what the global market was looking for. With that, obviously comes some pros and some cons. There's some upsides to the changes they made, and there's some downsides, and today we're gonna talk about those. One of the biggest things about this car is it's multifunctional as f***. You can use this car for anything. We're from the Midwest, so it's the perfect daily driver for us. Drive it all summer, toss some snow tires on in the winter, go wherever you want. It's got a fairly roomy interior, so we've hopped 5 deep into the car and driven to the racetrack, had fun with the car, driven home. Obviously that's a huge benefit, something you can drive every single day. Not everybody can afford to have multiple cars. Something that can do it all is just a really big benefit this day and age. Big trunk, fit a lot of groceries, maybe a bike or something, I don't know. Should try to put a bike in one. That's a huge plus for people these days, and I think one of the reasons why the Evo 10 is such a popular platform for us and many other aftermarket enthusiasts. There is a significant amount of aftermarket support. Between us, MAPerformance, and hundreds of other aftermarket manufacturers, there is a plethora of EvoX components. From factory replacement style products to cars to make 1,000 horsepower to crate engines that we can ship to your door. It's kind of a limitless bound of what you can buy for this car. If you've dreamt it up, it's probably available for purchase. So having that aftermarket support is huge for people that want to modify their car. And that support means that other people have done it, and there's a lot of great forums available for the car. There's a lot of great support available for the car. The larger the aftermarket gets, the easier it is for you, the consumer, to actually modify your car. Another really neat part of this is the factory support from the car, in the sense that it comes with factory Brembo brakes. Obviously the 8 and the 9 also came with that, but that's just a huge plus. Good braking, that's gonna help you use the car for daily fun, racetrack, all that. It's got factory Recaro seats. I don't think Recaro really needs much of an introduction. Very comfortable. Once again, the seat is the connection to the car. It's very important to be comfortable in the car when you're driving it around. Evo 10s have always been good for that, especially for us bigger dudes. They're not, don't like sit on top of the seat. I sit in the seat, I feel comfortable. I would say the next plus is how easy it is to make power with them. When the Evo 10 first came out, I remember we made at 350 horsepower with bolt-ons, and we were all wildly excited. You know, we're coming from 600-700 horsepower Evo 8s and 9s, and a 350-400 horsepower Evo 10 was just a blast to drive every day. As the aftermarket has expanded, as we've learned more, as people have more seat time with the car, as the aftermarket has expanded more, 550 wheel horsepower has been an absolute easy thing to do on these cars, and that's a daily driver power level for them. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of customers out there at that power level, driving it to like go pick up their grandma and bring it to the airport.
Yeah, dude.
It's a well-mannered, fun to drive car. I think in a world of boring cars that kind of drive themselves, the Evo 10 is one of the last driver's cars. It's a very raw feeling car. Although not the Evo 8 9 in that sense, it still carries over a lot of the Evolution atmosphere. It gives you a little bit more feel when you're driving the car. Once again, I think that's why we see so many people playing with them. All right, so now we're gonna talk about the cons of modifying your Evolution 10. It kind of seems like one of those situations where everything that fails on these cars is difficult to remove. So when we talk about that, the exhaust manifold, I think, is one of the most common failures on these cars, and it cracks, it falls apart. We obviously have some options to replace that. Cue our cast manifold somewhere over here. So we have an investment cast stainless manifold that replaces the factory one. We also have tubular exhaust manifolds that replace the factory one. It's definitely not the easiest job to do in the car. It's complex. The turbo is now on the back of the engine instead of the front, like the Evo 8.9s and the 5, 6, 7s and all the other ones. It's just a little more of a pain in the butt to work on. It's a more complex modern chassis. So when we talk about things that people commonly replace, we're gonna talk about roll center adjuster kits. We're gonna talk about sway bars. Front sway bar is kind of a pain to replace in this car because you have to remove a bunch of components to do so. Gone are the days of taking out 4 bolts, taking it off, putting it back on. So as we see these switches to more modern chassis, more modern cars that have a little more engineering into specific things like NVH and stuff like that, we start to see the cars get a little bit more complex to work on for the simpler tasks that we do. Rolling forward, another con, and I don't know if this is actually a con, but this is something that we've heard complaints about over the years in the car versus what we've experienced ourselves, is that it's a 5-speed trans over a 6-speed trans. We're talking about the manual version. The Evolution is no stranger to 5 and 6-speed transmissions. What we saw was that with the 5-speed transmission, Mitsubishi actually has a stronger gear set in the car. So when we go to the 6-speed transmissions of the Evo 8s and 9s, we have a smaller gear set inside of the same case. And personally, we've had experiences, and I think many of those that have modified a 6-speed Evo have had the same issues of the gears are just smaller, weaker, and they fall apart. I can't speak for Mitsubishi, but I think that longevity of the parts is the reason why they stuck with a 5-speed. I will agree that if you're cruising on the freeway in a modified car, it does get a little bit annoying to be stuck in 5th and just kind of like wah, down the freeway. But it's a very agile and responsive car when you're driving it, so that gearing and kind of the close ratios is a lot more fun to drive. So I can understand why they did it, and it could be both a con and a pro depending on who you're talking to, why you're talking to them. That kind of leads me into the next one, and it's something that from the first release of the Evo 10 until now, I think it was a bit of a controversial thing when they switched from the cast iron 4G63, could handle anything. I'm sure they make like tugboats with those motors. Like literally it's been in anything, you can throw anything at it. It's an industrial motor, it's big power, like stock blocks with 70 PSI of boost, to a cast aluminum, semi-closed deck, mostly open deck. Very basic motor in the sense of it's lighter, but it's easier to produce. It's probably cheaper to produce. There was a lot of people that were not happy with that change. We saw a lot of cars early on get blown up. Head gasket sealing issues, stuff like that. I would say that early on in the car's life, that was a con or a negative. As people like MAPerformance and many other people that spend a lot of time developing these motors have learned, we've just found ways around the limitations, whether that's things like block guards, sleeves, etc., etc. We have plenty of cars well north of 1,000 horsepower at this point in time, and I don't think the motor's a limitation any longer. Another con that I think I see a lot of people talk about, especially anybody racing the car, is how heavy the car is. It's a more modern chassis, more safety structures, it's bigger, it's everything about it is a little bit larger. So we saw a pretty significant weight increase, I think 400 pounds or so over the Evo 9s, which when you're modifying a car trying to take it to the racetrack, that's a very good amount of weight. If you're gonna race the car, you're kind of starting at a little bit of a disadvantage in that sense that you have a lot of catching up to do, get to feel with the a little bit older, lighter weight, a little better power to weight ratio cars. It's just not as nimble and happy on its feet like an Evo 8.9 is. Overall, I mean, I think we're being pretty nitpicky when it comes to the cons of modifying these cars. I think as we've proven, as many other manufacturers and supporters and engineers and do-it-yourselfers have kind of shown us over the years that these cars are incredibly fun to modify. Although we're picking out some of the things that make it difficult to modify, even then, with years of experience, people have gotten much better at it. Tools have made lives easier, and designing parts with the understanding of making it easier to install has made working on these cars, even in the toughest of circumstances, a very attainable task for most average consumers. At the end of the day, I would say this is one of the last raw cars that you can purchase, which is why I think we see it to be such a popular platform for us. As always, guys, we'd love to hear your feedback. I'm not going to be the one that's always in the videos. We're going to have Charlie and all of the rest of our team. I'm just jumping in to assist on this one today. We got a lot going on. We want to hear what you guys want to see. Tell me, and by me I mean us, and by us I mean Charlie, what you want us to talk about. What cars do you want us to go over the pros and cons of modifying? What cars are you on the fence of buying and you want to know more about? What things do you want to hear us talk about when we're talking about these videos? What stuff did we touch on in this video that you want to hear more about, less about, and anything in between? We love to hear from you guys. If you like this content, obviously you can, I don't know where the like button is, I don't do this very often. It's like over here somewhere. Hit it, smash it, do whatever the kids do these days, because that helps us, helps the channel. Hit subscribe, same thing, you know the drill. All of you use YouTube way more than I do. Obviously, if you want to buy some parts for your car, got a lot of those. And we got a team that is on the phones 12 hours a day, 5 days a week? Yeah, I almost said 7 days a week, but we give them days off now, I guess. They're here to answer your questions, help you, guide you. Anything we can do to make modifying your car easier, we're here for you guys. So thank you very much. Let us know what you think in the comments.